It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Agatha Bis. She is a practicing dentist in Oakville, Ontario, Canada, and the founder of UPB Dental Academy, which is an online learning platform for dentists looking to improve, grow, or change something about their practice. She has been in practice for 23 years, currently working 4 days a week with no weekends or evenings. Her practice has 5 full-time hygienists and completely fee-for-service. She created UPB Dental Academy to share with other dentists the systems that have been extremely successful for her in growing her business because she is passionate about elevating dentistry in the eyes of all the patients, creating successful, happy dentists around the world, and helping others achieve their ultimate level of success doing what they dreamed of when they first got into dental school. And this was all born out of necessity years ago when her dental practice was failing. She was forced to examine her situation in a very different way. She was forced to look at what she could change immediately in order to turn things around. She settled on 5 key insights that formed the basis for the ultimate hygiene program. From there, she employed first principles thinking approach to solve a bigger problem. She's a board-certified doctor of dental surgery from the University of Toronto in 1992 with an honors and bachelor in science in the field of chemistry. I assume she went into chemistry because her name is it Bis GMA or just Bis?
Just Bis.
Were you named after a bonding agent? You have to go into chemistry if you're named after a bonding. What? But you know, I just love it. She went on to the prestigious Las Vegas Institute to learn cosmetic makeovers, full arch mouth rehabilitation, the treatment of TMJ disorders and migraines. She currently has a practice in Oakville, Canada that focuses on cosmetic and holistic dentistry. I mean, I could go on and on about your bio. I was so excited to get you on, but I wanted to start with something completely off topic that you're not prepared for. And that is, I see all these because what I loved about your story the most is when you started out, it didn't start out too well, right?
Not at the beginning it did, and then it went downhill for sure.
Okay. So this is the dilemma. So I'm in Phoenix and we have 2 dental schools that have been here a decade.
Yeah.
Every week or month, some big DSO comes with free pizza, gets them all in there and says, if you don't work for me, you're going to go bankrupt and we're going to be like Walgreens and we're taking over and better get in on the ground. So they buy into this stuff and the teachers agree. And of course the teachers agree because those who can do and those who can't teach. So they're in a mental institution with a bunch of people that couldn't run a dental office if you put a gun to their head. So then they join these DSOs and I tell them, I say, look, I'm a lot older than you. I could be your dad. And I watched this for 10 years and you'll come out of school, you'll get a job as an associate. It doesn't matter if it's DSO or private because Heartland and Aspen, it doesn't matter. Most of them go to, it doesn't matter. They all quit after a year. Then they get another one, quit after a year. So they have to get 5 different jobs in 5 years until they're so miserable they don't even care if they start a dental office and go bankrupt because at that point they're standing on the ledge thinking about jumping. So I just want to know, why do you think, like when I got out of school, I got out May 11th, had my office open by September 21st. 4 months. It was 133 days. Why do they have to go job hopping for 5 years? Because you would think they'd get an Excel spreadsheet. They go to the class that graduated from dental school 5 years ago, call them all up and say, hey, how's that associate job working? And they're like, it was a really bad idea. So why do they not see this? It's just not working. I mean, it's some fairy tale that the cow jumped over the moon.
I think it's fear. I think dentistry has changed, and I think a lot of dentists are afraid to go off on their own. You know, I talk to a lot of dentists when we do different seminars, and it's just like this ongoing fear of what if it doesn't work, or, you know, if I can't get, you know, payroll met or rent met, things like that. So there's just money, fears, issues. A lot of new grads just don't really know what to do. They don't know where to set up. They don't know how to set up. Banks are different now. I mean, you know, when I graduated, banks gave you money to set up easily. Now there's a little bit more struggle in terms of financing. So I think,
just for the record, that was Canadian money. That's come on now. That's not money. That's monopoly money. Anyway, but continue. But the banks will loan them because the banks don't even have a 0.5% default rate. So 1 year out of school, you can get $750,000 just by signing the application.
Not so easily here, anyways. But a lot of the dentists I talk to that are associating right now, what a lot of them do now in terms of setting up their own practice, they'll associate somewhere else, right? And then they'll open up their own and grow it slowly, which is a kind of a safe idea, right? Because you still have income coming in and you're able to grow yours. The only problem with that I have is that you're not focusing 100% of your time and energy in your building of your own business. You're still 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? So in any kind of entrepreneurial situation, if you don't dive in 100% fully, then you're kind of cutting corners or missing out on the opportunity to really be different in your area. So a lot of them are, I think,
But I disagree with that because when most people get married, they keep their girlfriend on the side for at least a year or two, just in case it doesn't work out, right? It's the same thing, isn't it?
Analogy. I love that analogy. I never thought of that, but you're so right. I mean, you're 100% in when you get married. And it's the same thing in business, right? Why do some businesses succeed and some fail? Because you're not 100% in.
And they'll go work for somebody else for some $500 a day guarantee. It's like, okay, so if one person called you up with a broken tooth and needed a crown, one crown, what would the revenue on that be? More than your guaranteed day rate for someone else, but you answer the phone. I mean, getting married, keeping your girlfriend on the side, or starting your own dental office while still being an employee somewhere else. I mean, at what point do you just like hit them over the head with a hammer and hope they'll snap, and when they wake up, they won't have that thought anymore?
Yeah, but it's fear. I think it is a lot of dentists are afraid now. Certainly a lot more than when I first graduated, or probably when you graduated, for sure.
Yeah. So podcasts are definitely younger people. So email me, howard@dentaltown.com. Tell me how old you are, all that kind of stuff. But about a quarter of the emails are still in school, and the rest are all under 30. What would you tell that person who says, I am scared? She just admits it, I'm scared.
Well, the first thing is that, I mean, you can be scared of a lot of things. You can be scared of flying, but you're still going to get on a plane if you're going on a trip, right? So you have to take the fear aside, because fear is basically an emotion that you're having about something that hasn't happened yet. So it's kind of a wasted emotion, right? Because you're going to spend all your time worrying about what if instead of just doing. So number one is you got to kind of get over that and jump and do it. The other thing is that, I tell this to a lot of new grads when we're speaking at seminars, you've got to start your business with the end in mind, right? Like the typical, what is it, Stephen Covey that said that, where you're kind of setting up your office instead of doing what other people tell you to do or what the staff you hired did in the previous office. You've got to create the practice that you want to finish with and then work backwards. So that's kind of like where I'm seeing a lot of people that I speak to, they take insurance because other people take insurance in the area. They do certain things because their staff did things that way in their previous office. So they're kind of taking on a bunch of other people's garbage and creating this kind of semi-average practice. And then they're unhappy because they're not doing what they've always wanted to do.
So when they come out of school, let's just start, for example, so let's say she graduated 2 years ago. She's been working at Aspen or Heartland or Pacific for 2 or 3 years, and she's getting frustrated. I mean, the turnover in all associate jobs, again, in private practice, they're averaging about a year. And when you look, and some people think it's just millennials or whatever, because you see the same thing in Wall Street, where they'll get the best job at Goldman Sachs, and a year later they switch to another job. I mean, they're jumping job to job. I mean, I think the FANG stocks, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Amazon, all these, their average millennial only stays with them a year or two. So she's job hopping because the grass is greener on the other side of the hill. So where does she start? Does she start with demographics? Do demographics matter?
Well, let's go back for a second because you said something that I think is really important because millennials are a different bunch, right? I mean, you mentioned millennials, and I work with a lot of millennials in my own office. I mean, more than half my staff is millennials. And I feel like the difference with them is they want to make an impact. They want to grow in the business. They want to do something bigger than just a job, come in, do their thing and leave. So our generation was different because we just, we worked really hard and then we went home and then we did it all over again tomorrow, whether we agree with it or not. Millennials do want to make a bigger impact beyond their job. And that's the one thing that I find when we're talking about, the culture in the office and training your staff. I think you can get a ton of reward with working with millennials, but it's a different approach. They have to feel like they're contributing to something bigger. But going back to your dentist that you're talking about, it all depends on the area, right? I mean, there's offices popping up all over the place. So it's a matter of knowing, in my area is growing like crazy. So you could literally pop an office in the middle of a new suburb and start marketing, advertising, and on and on and on. I moved my office from a different location into where I am now, and this location was completely filled with dentists. The competition was crazy. So it's about positioning yourself in a unique way, right? Like, what are you good at? What are you special at? What do you shine at? What do you want to be known for? And really focusing on one thing in your marketing and your online presence so that when people are looking for that, they can find you easily based on that. I don't get people, searching online and saying, how much is a crown, and getting my website. That's not the kind of searches I'm going to get because that's not what I'm, promoting. So really, whatever you want to be known for, that's what you want to focus on in all your marketing and when you first start up so that you get the kind of patients that you want to work with.
So you started a blog. This is pretty interesting. Why I hate being a dentist.com.
Yeah.
You can find it on your UPB, which is the, what is UPB? Ultimate Practice
Breakthroughs.
What is it?
Ultimate Practice Breakthroughs.
So if you go to UPB for Ultimate Practice Breakthrough, UPB Dental Academy,
Yeah.
Under blogs, she has Why I Hate Being a Dentist. So that is kind of, that's so ironic. Here you are, a very successful dentist. Did you get this approved by Bill Dickerson? Did he after you graduated from LVI, did he allow you to have a blog, Why I Hate Being a Dentist? Where does that come from?
It's a joke. It's actually, it started out of frustration. I was having some really bad days here and there, and I started writing about my bad days and started writing about, whether it was a patient or a team member or just whatever was going on. And a couple of my friends saw it and they thought it was funny and they related to it because they are struggling with the same issues in their practice. And as I built UPB Dental Academy, we started solving some of those problems that I was faced with in those days. And so I decided to put it into a blog form. If anybody ever wants to kind of connect, relate, look for what I did to fix the things that I was struggling with. It was kind of like it started as a joke, but it was kind of a funny blog that talks about common dental challenges and sort of what I did to fix them.
So I'm sorry, I'm slow, but you said the UPB was ultimate.
So UPB stands for Ultimate Practice Breakthroughs, but it's a short form on the website.
And so going back to your journey when you weren't happy, it wasn't as successful as you thought. You had a series of these ultimate practice breakthroughs that led to your UPB Dental Academy. What was the first big mental breakthrough that you had?
So the whole thing really started with the market changing in 2008. So when the economy changed, a lot of my patients that had coverage at the time lost their jobs, and so they had no coverage. So, my practice went down in numbers like crazy overnight. And between that and I had some personal issues and struggles at home, I just started started hating it. I mean, I wasn't meeting payroll. I wasn't meeting rent. I was like struggling with my team. And I just decided that I was going to look and do something other than dentistry. I was going to get out and do something else. And the problem is I have no other skills, right? I don't know what else to do. So I couldn't really figure out what to do with myself. And at the same time, I got a letter from the bank saying they were calling my loan, meaning they were giving me basically 30 days and that was it. So I had to figure out a way to turn my practice around really fast in order to show them that I can continue building this business. And it was out of that where I just locked myself in a room for 2 weeks and just went to work on every single thing that we do and tweaked it and improved it, and basically went back to my team and said, okay, here's 5 things we're going to change immediately. And it's one of the things I talk about in the UPB program. And then how do we grow from here so that I can not only take my practice back, but love it and enjoy it and make proper money so I don't have to stress like this anymore. So, making small changes initially made a difference, daily. Like if you see a difference today and you see a difference tomorrow and you see a difference the next day, it motivates you to keep going. And then taking bigger things like improving customer service. That's a big thing, right? Or how to do proper case presentation. That's a big thing because you're training your staff to communicate differently. So all those things we chunked later on as we got better. And over a year, kind of cleaned up the entire practice so that we could, triple and quadruple the business and then show the bank that, hey, we're good, and kind of go from there. And that's when I started to love what I was doing.
So, I was, you said 2008, everything was going bad. Well, when Lehman's brother filed for bankruptcy, that was actually a 1929 depression. But in 1929, the Federal Reserve thought they should save the currency, so they lost a third of the banks, and 1 out of 4 Americans was unemployed for about 3 to 4 years. It happened again, September 15, 2008. This time they realized, no, we are not going to save the U.S. dollar, and they printed $8 trillion that night because it was just in ones and zeros. They could just electronically cover all the spreads. They didn't have to print anything or move gold bars around. But my question is this, it's 2019. Do you smell, does it kind of smell like Lehman's Day again today versus back then? Did you see it coming when Lehman's filed for bankruptcy? Were you like, I kind of expected this whole thing to start contracting? And does that have any impact on how you would coach a young girl who's a senior in dental school today?
So I heard a quote once that says, when you're doing great, when you party, you ignore things, and when things are crap, you ponder. And in reality, I think I didn't see it coming because my practice was really good at the time. So I didn't see the depression coming. I didn't see any of the issues coming. And then when they came like a truck hit you, right? Because it came overnight. Because of the systems we've built, I don't see it happening again, but that's also because of the way we structure, the way we do things in my office. So I'm still getting patients that are paying for things out of pocket completely. Like I'm not dependent on insurance. The way we deliver our services is a little bit different. So, I don't know when the next depression's coming. I don't know if the next thing is coming. Having said that, having some proper systems so that you don't lose anything when you're, let's say you have only 100 patients to work with, making sure they're getting in on time, making sure that you're not delaying their treatment by a month or 2 or 3, because that's where the revenue gets lost and the treatment doesn't get delivered properly. So having a lot of proper systems in place so that you maximize every opportunity, for me, made all the difference in the world, for sure.
So, the first thing I got to address is you're saying something totally not mainstream with you do not take insurance?
I do not.
Okay, you're going to talk about that. What % of dentists in Canada and the United States do you think do not take dental insurance?
I have no idea. Probably not that many.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be well under 2 or 3%. So where does that come from? How do you get there? Talk about that, because most people, if you went in there and said, okay, I'm a business consultant and we're going to quit taking insurance, there's no way. They'd bar the door shut.
Yeah, exactly. No, you can't do something like this overnight. This is it took me 10 years to do it, right? You have to go slow. So I did it in baby steps. When I first tweaked my practice and we were kind of rolling along properly, I started to change little tiny things. So in terms of how we communicate with patients, how we communicate with new patients on the phone, how we present our policies or philosophy. So I did it really, really slowly, and I did it in 6-month increments. So I would sit down with my team and say, okay, now we're going to say this to new patients when they call. We're a fee-for-service office, and if you have insurance and whatever you're covered for, that's what you're going to get reimbursed, but we're not going to take what the insurance covers. We have our own fee guide and so on. So kind of like getting around the wording around that. 6 months later, we implemented something else. 6 months later, we implemented something else. They're like baby steps in terms of shifting the practice to where it is now. Now, we still get calls every now and then, from new patients saying, will you take my insurance, or will you do this, or will you take my fees, my fee guide. And I've told my reception team a long time ago, I don't want to hear about those phone calls, because I feel like we're missing out on some of the patients that are calling our office. And I think that's a lot of the struggles with new dentists. They want everybody to come in the door, right? You want every new patient that calls your office just so you can be busy. But the problem with that is then you end up doing what you're told to do, as opposed to doing what you've always wanted to create. So, out of all the phone calls that come into the office, we'll probably only see maybe 10% of those patients in reality, because a lot of people are not willing to come in and pay out of pocket and pay above the fee guide and so on. But the ones we do are quality patients, plus they believe in what I believe, plus they refer their friends, plus they tell their neighbors. It's just like, it's grown slowly, but I'd rather have slow growth consistently than massive growth right away and then suffer with what I've created.
Interesting. By the way, you said you didn't know if the business cycle would be back. Joseph Schupner's got to be my favorite economist of all time, and his book is Business Cycles. And the bottom line of the book, it's not just that economic progress in capitalism means turmoil, but there's a business cycle, because guess who's making all the decisions? A bunch of crazy monkeys. And if you think these crazy monkeys are as smart as ever, well, then you'll be surprised by the next business cycle. Even Warren Buffett, who's sitting on $147 billion in cash, says that's why you have recessions. And when the tide rolls out, you'll get to see who's swimming with a bathing suit on and who's swimming naked. And so if someone told you they could predict the future, you would have to say, they are completely insane, because you can't predict the future. But my gosh, you can't. I graduated high school in 1980, economic contraction, 21% interest rates. Yeah. I graduated dental school May 11, and the following October was Black Monday. The market contracted a quarter. Then there was the Y2K bubble, March of 2000. Then there was Lehman's Brothers, and we're coming up on one of the longest economic expansions that I've ever lived through. And they're always followed by a contraction, because human beings are wild animals who make malfeasant investments. You're in the country of the smartest man in the world, Mr. Wonderful. Why is it that the smartest Canadians are always bald? Why have you noticed that? Do you love Mr. Wonderful? Is he your favorite Canadian?
He's pretty entertaining. I do like him. I know a lot of people don't, but he's pretty funny.
Yeah, and you know why he's pretty funny? It's pretty interesting what he believes. He believes, I was taught this formally in Catholic school. I went from Catholic school from kindergarten to the end of Creighton, and they always said that in the Bible, they always talked about stories and parables, because you can remember a story, you can remember a parable, and they pass it on. And he always talks about how the greatest communicators always talk in stories and parables. And what's funny is last Sunday we had the grandkids over, and sure enough, one of the grandpas sat all the grandkids down in the corner, and he sat in a chair and he was telling them stories.
Yep.
And he even said that. He says, they'll remember a lesson in a story. But if you just tell them to be good or don't kick the dog or, whatever, they're not going to remember it. So I want you to tell me a story. You survived life with 5 hygienists. Are you on medication? Do you drink at work? How do you cohabitate in a house with, is it 5 hygienists?
Yes, 5 hygienists.
Wow. So these people are coming in paying for a cleaning, like a girl going to a salon and paying for a hairstylist?
Yeah.
Without insurance.
If they have insurance, they'll be covered for whatever their insurance will cover, but not what they're getting done. So whatever we do is independent of what their coverage is. So
they'll pay you and then the insurance will pay them?
That's right.
Wow.
It's usually a portion of what happened in the appointment, right? In most cases, anyways.
Well, give an example. So I come into you, I get my teeth cleaned. What happens?
Yeah. So first of all, I have a very specific system. And again, I teach that on the UPB Dental Academy, but it's basically 7 screenings, which is like little things that we do. And a lot of dentists do this. I mean, like we all do oral cancer screening and we all do occlusal screenings and things like that, but it's not properly communicated, right? I don't know who does your teeth, but most of the time you probably just go in and they clean your teeth and off you go. But nobody really spends the time to explain to you the value of doing certain things and what they're looking for, and consistently kind of show you what's happened in the last 5 years, right? So show you where you were 5 years ago and where you are now, kind of thing, to motivate people to do things. But there's a number of little things that we do a little bit differently that has grown my practice tremendously. The other thing my hygienists do is they see the new patients. They see any whitening cases. They do help me a lot in terms of emergencies and things like that. So they're not just doing cleanings. They're doing a lot of things that are very important in terms of building value in that appointment. But the new patient exams are by far my favorite. They're 2-hour exams. We spend a crazy amount of time getting into a lot of detail, kind of find out what the patient wants, how they want it delivered. We have a questionnaire about specific things like, what did you not like about your previous dentist? How do you want things presented to you? There's a lot of communication learning in terms of what they want and how they want it. And then kind of finding out, like I have a lot of patients who even ask me for specific materials. I'll get people coming in and say, I only want this or I only want that. So again, just kind of getting into the information of what they're looking for and giving that back to them. That's really all we ever want in any kind of business scenario, right?
Now, before we go further with that, not only do you not take insurance, you have the word holistic on your website, which on Dentaltown is a trigger word. On Dentaltown, when a dentist reads holistic, he immediately needs to swish his mouth with scope and swallow. They run out of the room. What I've noticed is some bizarre things, like when in California, dentists I know put solar panels on the roof and advertise he's off the grid. Well, there's, that's a big thing in California. So he has people driving their car 1 hour across town, burning gasoline to go to the dentist off the grid. I've noticed that if a dentist writes holistic on his website, the patients love it. Now, all the conservative rednecks on Dentaltown, they just like freak. So where does the word holistic come from, and what does it mean to you?
So what it means to me is basically looking at the whole patient, like as a whole. So it's not about I'm not an extremist whatsoever, but I had my own personal medical issues that my doctor kept blowing me off for 7 years and nobody would listen. And so I experienced the holistic approach with somebody else and basically looking at all my symptoms, all the problems, and going, what could be triggering this? And so we do look at our patients a lot in terms of what else is going on in their lives. Now, I'm not saying I solve their medical issues. What I'm saying is we communicate with them in terms of what's going on beyond their teeth, beyond their mouth. And then a lot of the times, sometimes it does tie in. A lot of the times people just need to sort of express to you what it is they want. So some people just simply don't want fluoride. I mean, that's a simple thing. Other people want to discuss their nutritional supplements that they're taking. Other people have like a whole host of illnesses that nobody's been able to diagnose them with. And they think that, you know, if you take out that one root canal treated tooth, that's going to solve all their problems. And I mean, that's obviously not the situation, but a lot of patients will think that, you know, holistic means that we have some magic pill. For me, it just means really, really going into detail in terms of what the patient is experiencing medically and dentally, and some of their challenges, and then sort of finding out where they want us to help them and how, and giving that back to them if it's feasible.
I think you know, when people are really conservative and they don't like holistic or naturopath or things like that, and they talk about, you know, you should only go to the Mayo. I always remind them. I say, now, you know, the longest anyone ever lived was 122 years, right? So you know, all their patients are going to die. Yeah. And then what I also think is bizarre is when you hear MDs talk about how they just know everything about something and they can say that something else doesn't work. And I say, okay, so then you can cure this disease? Oh, no, there's no cure for it. Oh, so you know everything about it, but you can't cure it. Does that make sense to you? I would think if I know everything about a car engine, I could fix it. So if you bring me your broken car and I can't fix it, I'd have to be humble enough to just say, wow, I don't know what's wrong with it. But an MD doesn't able to say that, can they? They're just like, no, you have to take this and you have to take this prescription. You have to take this pill. And you say, okay, so we know everyone's going to die. And we know grandma's been following your advice for 3 years and she has no benefits. Can I go to a naturopath? Oh, no, those guys are quack. And let me tell you something else. This podcast we're doing. Yeah. It started out way back in the day. This was Awatuki Uncensored for my practice B2C. And I called all the healthcare people to do the podcast with. Not one MD had the time. They were too busy because if you sign up for Medicaid and Medicare, you're booked 3 months in advance. Exactly. So who came? All dozen chiropractors, all dozen naturopaths, everybody like you who wants people that aren't getting the help they need, that are willing to pay their own cash. And I did 88 podcasts. And the other thing, the marketing thing is, guess what they did with that podcast? They put it on their website.
That's right.
So you start going around where I live in Awatuki, and there's all these people that have an hour interview, and I did it for free. Yeah. And I did the podcast. So this holistic deal, I mean, and I think it's neat. People are complicated. I think a quarter of all humans are completely crazy, disconnected from reality, and I love them. Like I always tell people, my favorite patient at today's dental is when I go there, she's sitting outside out the front door on her little electric wheelchair, taking the last puff of her cigarette, not knowing when I open the door, she's going to exhale smoke all the way there. But I mean, obviously, she knows when you're in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank, you probably shouldn't smoke. But you got to love people.
Play in. No,
I love people, and she's going to die one day, and so am I. And I'm not going to ruin her life because she's not Karen, the yoga instructor, eating yogurt and you know. So people are crazy, and you just got to love them. And I think that's very neat. But would you agree that saying holistic on your website is a marketing advantage?
I think it's both. I think it's an advantage and a disadvantage. It does open you up to obviously more potential exposure. Having said that, it actually brings people in that are sometimes dangerous to a dental practice, right? Because I've had some patients that come in and 100% believe, and I'll give you an example, that you can cure them. And I had a lady bring in her son in a wheelchair. He was probably in his 40s, mentally incapacitated, physically, a lot of issues. And she swore up and down that if I remove his mercury filling, that one filling, that will cure his disease. And I mean, so you have to be really careful with patients like that, right? Because you can't do this and then have them think you're going to fix them, and because they're going to hold you to it, right? So essentially, as long as, if I see, this is why we spend so much time with our new patients, as long as we see that there's that belief system attached to one thing in their mouth, whether it's a root canal or a filling or whatever else was done, I'll usually dismiss the patient from my practice. I won't treat them if their expectations are that I'm going to cure their diseases.
Well, the Romans thought the sun and the moon and the five largest planets, they thought they were all planets, right? Yeah. And Mercury was the fastest one. So when people say they want all their Mercury moved, then they're the fastest patient out your front door.
I like that.
So I want you to go back to a big issue, the hygiene department. I mean, is the dog wagging the tail or is the tail wagging the dog? Everybody that knows that ever had a dental office answer the phone. I'd like to call and just get my teeth cleaned. And whether or not you do new patient cleanings or not is the first division between complete dentistry and wham bam thank you ma'am dentistry. So tell my homies, which I know they all do first appointment cleanings. What are your thoughts on first appointment cleanings?
I have no problem with that. I think whatever gets a patient in the door so they can experience your services is key. So I wouldn't turn down somebody who calls the office and says, I just want a cleaning, because it still gives me an opportunity to sell myself. Now, what I mean by selling, obviously, I don't mean it in a cheap way. I mean, like, explain to them and show them how good we are and what we can do for them long term. But I don't have a problem with it. I'll tell you why. I think a lot of patients, when they don't know what to say on the phone, they'll call for cleaning, right? Not everybody's going to call and say, I would like a comprehensive oral exam, right? A lot of people just say, I'm due for cleaning. Can we do a cleaning? So go for it. Absolutely. I totally think it's a great way to build your practice.
And that's interesting, because a lot of dentists always sit there and me, well, if they're not going to take x-rays, I'm going to dismiss them as a patient. I'm pretty sure everyone needs a dentist. Yeah. If you go to all the prisons in Arizona, they even have a dentist for the prisoners. I think it's completely not doctor-like to find all these legal reasons to keep patients out, and you just document in the chart, and you don't live your whole life being feared of getting sued. I mean, you have car insurance in case you crash. The only person that should worry about Howard Farran getting sued by a patient is my dental malpractice carrier. Yeah. I'm not worried about it. I'm trying to treat that patient like I would myself, and if they're crazy, I treat them like I do when I treat my mom. I mean, they're just and obviously I take after my dad since I'm the most normal person ever. So that's pretty neat that they want a new patient cleaning and you're not an extremist. You're like, okay, come on in, because if they come into your practice, see you, meet your staff, they'll probably come back.
And half of them, once they come into the office and we explain to them that eventually, we'd like to see them for a comprehensive full exam, a lot of them will book it right away. And if time allows, we'll do it that day. Like, a lot of the patients will convert automatically on that cleaning to an existing patient, to a comprehensive exam. So I don't have a lot of issues with that. And I think anybody who, says you shouldn't do that, I'm sure they have really good reasons, but I think it just kind of limits you in terms of who you allow into your practice.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Next subject is probably the most taboo subject. Remember Sade's song, "The Sweetest Taboo"?
Yeah,
I do. You know what the taboo was?
No, I don't.
It was a dentist selling dentistry, and it was just it just rocked her world. Yeah, Sade, she almost left America and went back to France. I mean, they tell you, I hate selling dentistry. I didn't go to school 8 years to sell. I don't like to sell dentistry. And then their patient leaves with 11 cavities. And when you're as old as I am and your 4 kids turn into 5 grandkids, and you're sitting there thinking of the transition. When my 5 grandkids go to a dentist someday, when I'm no longer in the present, I don't want them to go to some lame dentist that just says, well, you got 5 cavities, but unfortunately you don't have dental insurance, so there's no way you could do anything because you're a victim. I would, case presentation is more important than clinical dentistry. Like, would you rather my grandkids go to a dentist who said, well, look, all I can do is numb up the teeth and remove all the decay and pack it with butter. It'll be real butter. It won't be margarine. Versus another dentist who leaves all the decay in because he can't sell the case. Would you rather have your grandchildren have all their decay removed and packed with butter, or go to a dentist who leaves all the decay in because they don't like to sell dentistry? I mean, if you can't convince my little tailor to get a filling done, you're not a good dentist. And there's so many dentists who have the alphabet soup behind their name that think they're the greatest dentists on earth. And I'm like, dude, you can't convince anybody with an F-150 pickup truck and a big screen TV who's been to Disneyland twice to save one tooth. You're not a good dentist. You're a legend in your own mind. And until you can convince another human to part with their cash to get their teeth fixed, you're not a good dentist. Do you believe that, or is that not true?
100%. I mean, the word sell, I think what people misunderstand is selling isn't like I'm trying to get you to do something that isn't in your best interest. Selling is like what we do with our kids. We sell our kids on stuff all the time, right? When we're trying to motivate them to do something like brush their teeth at night. Teachers should be selling their kids on learning and, growing. So selling is basically influencing another human being to do something that is in their best interest. So whenever we talk about selling or case presentation, it's about making sure that we influence the patient to do the right thing for them. So if that means that they need a bunch of crowns, or they need a bunch of fillings, or they need even whitening because their teeth are super yellow and they can't even smile properly, that's not manipulative. That's helping them. To me, that feels like I'm a true professional because I'm able to convince them to do something that is in their best interest. So case presentation is number one, but the ability to truly believe in what you're delivering is so important. A lot of dentists can, like what you said, where they shy away from it and they hide and they go, oh, I'm sorry, I have to deliver this news to you. No, you didn't create the problem. You didn't put the cavities in their mouth. You're trying to help them fix it. So the solution, what we're trying to deliver every day, is in their best interest. So it's not selling, it's helping. And it's my job to convince the patient, to influence the patient, to go ahead with treatment, and to go ahead with treatment sooner than later, so it doesn't end up being a root canal or an extraction or something bigger. So I think that's our job as dentists, as dental professionals, to do exactly that, to sell our patients on the dentistry that they need.
You talk about customer service, which I think, every time you see a patient, when it's a new patient, I say, oh, congratulations, did you just move here? And a lot of times it's from Canada, about 10%. Did you know that 10% of the homes in Phoenix are owned by Canadians?
I believe that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just really, this is like a little Canada. And you always know how you can tell who the Canadian is?
How?
Oh, I'm serious. This isn't even a joke.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, it'll get down to like 58 degrees and they walk down the street in shorts and thongs. When you see someone, it's like, okay, either you're drunk, out of your mind, or you're from Canada. And so one day, this is the worst thing I ever did. It was a dentist. He's at my house and he was swimming and it was like January. And I just thought, okay, it's all in your head. Look, there's a real human in there. He's swimming. It's all in your head. So I told my boys, and they're like, Dad, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. And I was like, he's in the pool. It was John Lyons. Do you know John Lyons?
No.
And so I put on my bathing suit and I jumped in. I thought I was gonna die, have a heart attack. My teeth were chattering. turned purple. There's just you guys you've been frozen for so long. Yeah. You're just used to it. And when you come out here in the heat, you quickly get unused to it. And I read a study about hair. And if you go up to people who live in like the northern above the Arctic Circle, each one of their hair stands perfectly straight up because the smooth muscle tonicity is so strong. And then when you get close to the equator, that hair lays on its side. And then they show a deal where he's in an infrared deal, and the above the Arctic Circle person, you don't see any heat coming out, and then the person from the equator just flowing heat. So we can't do it. But when they say they say no, I've lived here in Phoenix for 5 years. You say, wow, you haven't been to the dentist in 5 years? No. I went to the dentist a year ago. Okay, why did you leave? Yeah. It's almost never clinical dentistry.
Oh, it's not, exactly.
And it's almost, not to be rude, but it's usually not even the dentist.
Yeah.
Somebody hurt their feelings, said something, rolled their eyes. Somebody made them feel bad. So how would you explain, how do you convince these people that customer service is more important than the Pankey Institute?
So I read an interesting study years ago by, I don't know if you know who Dan Ariely is. He's, I think he's a basically does a lot of behavioral psychology studies. And he took a bunch of people and took them through a mock drive-through. And so you're going to get your sandwich, and, you know, today it takes 30 seconds to get the sandwich. Tomorrow it's 5 minutes. The next day is 7 minutes. Another day is a minute. So it's always different times. Then they took another group and they ordered the same food, and each and every time it was 3 minutes, right? So it was always 3 minutes, get your sandwich, 3 minutes, get your sandwich. And they asked both groups to rate each drive-through. And the one that was consistently delivered at 3 minutes had a much higher rating than the one that was inconsistent. And what they found after talking to people is that the consistency was more important than the quality of the food, because when somebody's in a hurry or somebody wants a sandwich, they want to know that they're not going to be stuck there for a long time. They want to know, they know that they expect 3 minutes and they're going to get it. So it's the same thing, kind of putting it into a dental practice, which is something that I've utilized a lot as we were making changes in our office. I said to everybody, we can't go from here to here overnight, right? We have to tweak what we're doing right now, and we need to tweak it and deliver it consistently. So we started making sure that everything we do across board the same. So whether it's hygienist number 1 or hygienist number 4, the same things get delivered each and every time at each and every appointment the same way. And as we did that, our ratings improved, patient feedback improved drastically, because people were getting the same thing over and over, and so their expectations were always met. And once we got that figured out, then we elevated it, right? So then we improved customer service again, and again went to town to deliver it each and every time. So consistency is key in terms of kind of getting your patients to really appreciate what's happening at each appointment and have their needs met. And as well, it kind of makes it easy too, because you don't have to be like, you know, superhero today. You can just take your practice, and as long as you deliver the treatment the same each and every time, the patients feel safe in your hands.
That is, consistency is everything. I mean, McDonald's, it's 2 LB patties, special sauce, cheeseless, onion on a sesame bun. I mean, it's just, they want everything the same. Yeah. I noticed that with hygienists. I had the biggest problem with, a hygienist to go on maternity leave or something, and say she used the baking soda powder machine gun thing, and then the person covering for her doesn't use it, and they'd come up and say they didn't feel like their teeth got. I mean, I don't care what it is. Most people like their favorite food is what their mom cooked them, and they go to the grave not knowing their mom was the worst cook in North America, and they craved it all the way up to the end. So
yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same thing with employee turnover. I mean, you have you fire an employee or they move, it doesn't matter. They come in, and when they get their teeth clean, like in my office, they like Jamie and Brandy are the 2 hygienists, and one of them will say, well, she's going to be gone that day. Do you want to see Jamie? Nope. And they say, I'll wait for Brandy, and we'll say, well, Jamie's twice as smart as Brandy. Do you want to see Jamie? They're like, no, I want to wait for Brandy. And we say, yeah, you should go to Jamie. I mean, they just want the same. Yeah. So really, when you have patient turnover, it's really got to be bad, because everybody wants everything the same. So when these people come to you and they're so upset that they're going to look for a complete stranger, I mean, it's not just like, I won't go back. I'll just find. No, it takes a lot of effort to say, I'm going to get a whole new dentist. I'm going to get a whole new whatever. It couldn't have gone well.
And, one of the things I do is every patient that comes into my practice gets surveyed right after. So, they get their automatic little survey, and they can give feedback in terms of what happened and what they thought of it. So any feedback that's below like 90%, I'll contact them personally, and I'll find out how we can improve next time. And a lot of the times, if something happened that they didn't like, if you can resolve it and promise them it'll be fixed by next time, or, talk to them in person, it totally brings them right back. And people will forgive, an issue or a challenge or something they weren't expecting, if the dentist themselves gets on the phone and says, I'm sorry this happened, how can I make it better next time? So that's been a lifesaver for us too, right? And when I first started kind of implementing some of these changes, is basically anytime a patient wasn't 100% happy, me getting on the phone or me, saying, hey, let's talk about this. Let me fix it. Let me make it better.
Yeah. I see it on Dental Town all the time. People say, oh, this patient's upset. Should I call my malpractice attorney, or who should I call the board? And I'm like, you're posting on Dental Town. Your first instinct should be same thing with reviews. They're trying to get lawyers to have reviews taken down. And I've had reviews go up that were horrible and got them on the phone. And it's a cry for help.
Yeah,
it's just a cry. And then when I talk to every dental malpractice attorney, well, did you see that big study with the MDs? Which you got to remember, there's 1 million MDs in America, and there's only 211,000 dentists. So there's 5 times the data for the MDs. And the malpractice insurers started realizing that it's the same 3 or 4% of the MDs that get all the lawsuits. Yeah. And then when they went in there, they found out that they would just have horrible personalities. So that people can't get anything out of them. They can't get any satisfaction. So it's really out of vengeance. Like, well, I'll show you, you little pompous butt. I'm going to go file a complaint. So you just call them and you be humble and you listen to them. And most of mine, in fact, one guy filed at the board. It's always the same thing where the new patient, you tell them they have gum disease, and they went to some other guy they loved, and they saw him every 6 months since Adam and Eve, and then you have to tell them they have gum disease, severe gum disease. And so it's all communication. I want to completely change gears now to a whole different subject. In my walnut brain, if my bills cost $1 a month, I mean, I can't go change the tax rate. I can't call the government utility SRP and negotiate a lower deal. Everybody pays their hygienist $40 an hour and their assistant $20 an hour in Phoenix. I can't lower my overhead by convincing my assistants to work for half of that. I mean, I don't know any single way to lower my overhead because everything is paid for in an efficient supply and demand marketplace. So if my bills are $1 a month, I'm going to have to pay $1 a month. And if I only do $1 with the dentistry, my overhead's 100%. But if I figure out how to do $2 a dentistry, now my overhead's 50%. So is overhead more about saving 9 cents on gauze by joining some dental supply club and getting volunteer dental assistants from the homeless shelter? Or is it just about doing more dentistry?
Absolutely. It's exactly that. And tweaking how you do it, right? Maximizing every opportunity. I never care what we spend. I don't look at how much I spend on dental supplies. I don't look at my payroll costs. I don't look at any of the expenditures. What I look for is, are we meeting and exceeding our targets? Because I can tweak. If I can even tweak one thing in my schedule each and every day, it'll account for all the overhead discounts or whatever that you're going to be looking for in those flyers and magazines. So for me, increasing revenue even slightly will be exponentially greater than trying to save, 10 cents on gauze and 20 cents on resin or whatever it is, for sure.
Yeah, they're back there on the internet trying to save 12 cents on gauze and little things like end of the day audit. You'll find every dental consultant tell you at the end of the day, they'll find at least $200 of dentistry you did that didn't even get entered.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, the hygienist took bite wings.
And do that, right?
Yeah, the hygienist took bite wings and no one entered it in the chart. When you were doing that crown, you said, hey, while you're here, you want to do that MO filling right behind it? And that didn't get entered. So dental consultants tell me that when they're in the office, it's free. They can get on the phone and start saying, hey, you have an overdue balance of $2,000. I could take that right now on your Mastercard or Visa. Do you have a credit? I mean, I know dental consultants who went in there and the dentist was so busy doing dentistry at a loss that they just sat there and worked the over 90-day account receivable and brought in $10,000, $20,000 before he finally had time to start talking. Systems. Some people, systems. What does that bring into your mind? How do you create systems?
So for me, systems create a relaxed environment, meaning nobody knows what to do when they come into a new office, right? So let's say I hire a new staff member and they're just going to do whatever they did previously, right? all they know is what they know. So if I create a system, even in terms of just like the hygiene appointment, how is that appointment going to be dealt with from the beginning to the end? And we implement and train specific ways of doing that. And I'm not talking about scripting. I'm not saying, you have to say it this way each and every time. I'm talking chunks of the appointment. This is what you do here. This is what you do here. This is what you do here. This is who you do it with. This is when you do it. This is when you don't do it. So kind of creating a very smooth appointment so that the team members all know what to do. For me, it takes the chaos out of the office, and it brings control, because I know that every single person in my office is doing what they're supposed to do, with who they're supposed to do it with, when they're supposed to do it. And so I don't have to stand over their heads and saying, did you do this? Or did you do that? Or did you forget to bill for those bite wings that we added? Or did you forget to deliver or talk about outstanding treatment? Things like that all get into following a proper system. But it takes training, and it takes, we do a lot of role play in the office. Any new team member will come in and will go through learning and training and then role playing before they're able to do it with the patients. But it does give me an incredible amount of control without me standing over their heads at all times.
So there's a guy posting on Dental Town, I don't know if you've heard of it before, Mark Gaylord. And he says, I'm curious about the active patient count. With over 2,000 patients, the practice should be exploding. Do you know the percentage of hygiene revenue in the billing per hour? He's on your team, isn't he?
Yeah.
So tell us about Mark Gaylord. Gaylord?
Mark helps me a little bit with some of the UPB work, and we've done some seminars together. We just did a couple recently. One was in Toronto for a group called EverSmiles. I can't remember how many dentists were there, maybe 300 or so. And we did like a full day seminar together, and basically just kind of talking about how to grow a business. And he's like the interactive part with the audience. I tend to kind of I'm a little shyer, so I step back and just talk about what I know in terms of the dentistry and the systems. He gets people kind of really involved in the actual event and the seminar.
So I want to change gears again. When I ask any dentist what stresses you out the most, no matter what comes out of their mouth, it has to do with a human. It's either the patient complaint or deal or the staff. And, a dentist in their fantasy bubble world, they're just in a lab doing a scientific root canal on an extracted tooth and a molar. I mean, I know a dentist who opened his own lab, and I said, why did you do that? He said, to get rid of the patients. And I said, well, how do you like it now? And he says, well, now I hate dealing with the other lab techs and now the dentist. I mean, so at the bottom of the line, they don't want to be a leader, and they want to. Dentists are introverts. They got A's in geometry and trig and calculus and physics, and they have fantasies about Niels Bohr and Albert Einstein. How do you get them to be a leader? And if they weren't, do you think they were born that way? Do you think if they're not born that way, if they're not born that way, can they be trained that way? Talk about leadership.
I think leadership is. It's both. I think some of us have it more in us than others, and I think you can learn it. I certainly learned it the hard way. I did it. I became a better leader by being a really crappy one to begin with. I remember a time when all I did was manipulate people to get them to do what I wanted them to do. So like the stick, right? So you have to do it this way or else. And so that brings a lot of fear in the office, right? Because everyone's afraid of losing their jobs. And they'll do what you say in front of you, but then behind your back, you can see that things aren't exactly where they should be. And I found that I started kind of reading a lot on leadership, especially with people like Simon Sinek, who's really well known for his leadership teachings, and just really try to incorporate what I learned in terms of, being there for people, helping people, inspiring people to do what you want them to do, and having people that believe in what you're trying to build, people who believe in what you believe on your team. So that takes time. People will probably listen to this and say, oh, well, that's easier said than done. And it is, because anytime there's no trust in the office and you're trying to build trust, you can't just say, from now on, I'm not going to be this person. It's kind of like when you're cheating on your spouse and then you say, I'm not going to cheat anymore. There's a lag effect, right? So you have to show consistent behavior and consistent actions that support who you're trying to become. And, you know, in my case, it took a year for my team to go, yeah, you are different now, and you do have our backs, and you do step up when things get tough, and you do protect us versus yelling at us or getting mad at us or, you know, sending us home or whatever. So that took time. But I think leadership has to do with protecting the people that are working with you, that are working for you, and making sure that you do the right thing, even when it's really, really hard to do it.
So his book, 2009, Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action.
Yeah.
What is Simon saying to you when you read that book?
So I don't know how many people that are listening to this have heard him speak about it. He basically kind of, instead of, you know, we all know what we're doing. We know we do dentistry, we do this, we do that, but we don't know why we're doing it. And I think communicating with my team why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm implementing the changes that I'm implementing is key in getting them on board. So for example, if I remember years ago where I said, we have to stop taking insurance. It's my biggest headache. It's my biggest struggle. And I want to shift from taking insurance to delivering a different type of service because we are all suffering when we do this. We need to change. And, you know, so building the belief systems around why I want to do what I want to do. Why am I changing the hours? Or why am I changing this? Or why am I, you know, introducing something as simple as like porcelain onlays? Why would I do a porcelain onlay over a filling? It's not just about the money. So having my team understand the why behind my decisions gets them on board right away.
Are you a fan of Frederick Nietzsche? Or however you say it? You know, I don't know if I said that right, but Nietzsche, you know, he says, he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. I think I love Simon Sinek and Frederick Nietzsche and the fact that you see that people whine and whine and whine, but if they have to do that so their granddaughter doesn't drown in the pond, see, they'll fight 10 alligators and they'll just get it done. And with staff, I believe that the culture, the fish rots from the head down, and when someone's being a jerk, you have to let them know that they wouldn't be a jerk if they were just entering Disneyland right now. They wouldn't be a jerk if they were walking into a 5-star restaurant about to eat 1,000 calories of dill. You know what? Just because this looks like a jerk. But you know what? Maybe he's scared. Maybe he doesn't want a shot. Maybe he's broke. Maybe he just had to put $5,000 into his dog at the vet. But you know what? We're doctors, and that guy needs a dental office. And okay, he's pouting. Well, when a teacher has a grammar school kid pouting, do they quit? Do they burn out of teaching? Do they go home and say, well, if you saw my 7-year-old today, you'd quit too? No, you wouldn't. And you know, my dad had Sonic drive-ins, and if you have ever seen an American before they eat a foot-long chili cheese dog, you couldn't beat the smile off their face with a crowbar. And then I would go to work with my next-door neighbor and see that same guy, the same guy at my dad's restaurant on the same street, West Street, now walking into Kenny Anderson's office, and he's having a big old argument with the receptionist. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, 3 days ago you were in the deal and you and my dad were laughing so hard they would cry. One was about to give you onion rings and the other one was about to perform a root canal. Yeah. I mean, just put on your big boy hat and you just got to have compassion. And, but I think the why in dentistry is easy. It's because you're a doctor. They have infection. They have bacteria. They don't take care of their teeth. You know, it's all about love and compassion and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people today, they're going to solve all their problems. And they got staff turnover. Their employees quit. Their patients don't come back, and they're on wife number 3. So we're going to fix all that on Facebook ads. But in all honesty, how do you promote your dental office market? Everybody thinks that I'm not going to fix my customer service. I'm not going to keep my staff. I'm not going to train my staff. What I'm going to do is just flood my office with a ton of new patients. So I'm just going to ask, how do you promote your office on social media?
So there's a bunch of things that we do that I just started doing a few years ago. And one of them is I only focus on what I want to do, what I want to become. So I don't advertise, you know how you see a lot of dentists talk about, we do all these services. I kind of hone in on a couple of things that I want to be doing more of, and that's kind of what we promote. But we also do a lot of stuff online that just engages patients. Like we do some crazy videos. We just did a Halloween video with one of my hygienists, Kira, walking down the hallway and like losing body parts and to like cavities, you know, getting bigger and things like that. So we do some crazy wacky things. We've got one coming up because we've been getting a lot of patients talking about how they've read that chewing on eggshells will cure cavities. So, you know, we're getting a lot of this weird stuff. So we're going to do a funny video with eggshells and chickens and things like that. So we just do like really weird, quirky stuff, but it really engages our community and it engages our patients. And so as people see us doing stuff and this is what we do in the office anyway, so it reflects who we are, but as people see us, you know, as something other than just a dentist, they share that information with their friends. And so we're getting a lot of people going, you know, I saw your weird Halloween video. Like, what was that? We want to have an appointment in your office. So there's a lot of information being given out in terms of like what we do and why we do it. But there's also a lot of quirkiness and weird stuff that we post on Instagram and different social media platforms.
So your website is, talk about your online learning programs. What can they, so if they go to upbdentalacademy.com, is this more lecture format? Is it more, your course is more online? How does this work?
It's online. There's a video component and like a PDF worksheet component. I had somebody code it for me. So it's like you literally just take modules and lessons and you follow through along and then implement certain parts in your practice. There's a lot of things that I've always focused on in terms of how do you deliver this to your team, right? So you could watch a video on something, but then how do you take it and make sure that your people are doing what you want them to do, right? So there is workshops, and you could present this at a group meeting and essentially just teach your team to do what we do in our office and implement these systems. So it's like baby steps to achieving the practice that you want to achieve. So we don't tell you what to do. We just tell you, if you want to end up here, here's a system that you can utilize to achieve what it is that you're looking for.
Okay, we talked earlier, the Greeks said you had two emotions, fear and greed. The biologists say that every single living organism is a predator or prey. So you're out there trying to kill a banana, and while you know a tiger is trying to eat you. So greed, fear, predator, prey. They're afraid of making big purchases like $150,000 for a CAD cam, $100,000 for a CBCT, $100,000 for a laser. So is that, are those good return on investments for you?
Absolutely. But I'm just now actually finishing up another program that we're doing on a strategic plan, which is basically like how to create a plan to achieve what you want in a year. So it's a really simple idea. Very low cost and very low investment, but you'll see results right away. So it's called the strategic plan video. We'll be probably promoting that in the next month or so. So, you know, they can keep an eye out on that. But our hygiene program online is the program that basically was built out of the frustrations that I was feeling a long time ago. So that's the program that teaches everybody what we do in my practice to create that exponential growth right away.
The only thing I recommend, and I really recommend you should do this, is Dental Town. We put up 400 1-hour online courses. They've been viewed 1 million times, and the people like the Pankey Institute, the Dawson Academy, a lot of these people, like you, have programs. They put up a 1-hour program about their online program, and they all say it was the best marketing they did because you already have the content. You should take one of your hours and make it an online CE course on Dental Town, because I'm sure once they get to know you and see you and meet you, they're going to want to learn more. Because I just think you're amazing. I think what you're doing is amazing, and I just want more role models for these young kids. Because back to I'll end on Stephen that you like that Simon Sinek. Well, he's saying get your why. What was your why in high school when you decided it was to be a dentist? Was it so you could go be somebody's associate at Heartland?
No,
really? Is that why you kicked it, killed it, crushed it?
My why has never changed. My why has been the same since I was a young kid. I had some really terrible experiences with my dentist when I was a child. And I've always wanted to be the dentist that I've always wanted to have. I wanted to be viewed differently by the public than all the dentists are. And to this day, it still hasn't changed. The way I got there has changed. The way that I have grown is different than I would have anticipated. But definitely, it's still to this day, my biggest passion is to change the way the public sees us. Not just me, but all dentists. I think that we have a bit of a negative connotation right now when I hear some people talking about dentists, and my motivation, my drive is to change that.
Well, you're doing a phenomenal job. Tonight at dinner, tell Mr. Wonderful I said hello. And my gosh, I would love to get an online course out of you. And any dentist helping other dentists is my friend, and I love what you're doing, and the mission is going to be large. Hell, they graduate 6,000 new dentists a year just in the United States. So what you're doing, it's all digital, it's scalable. It's not the old world where you have to do everything without scale. But thank you so much, Agatha Bis, the founder of Bis GMA, the inventor, third generation Bis GMA. Agatha Bis, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure to podcast you.
That was fun. Thanks, Howard.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.